Welcome back, casual gardeners. It's fall. That's what we call it here in the US of A, because these fall. So what do you do with them? Stay tuned to the end and you'll find out, is it okay to use the leaves from your black walnut tree? Do pine needles change the pH of your soil? Is it going to hurt your lawn if you don't rake your leaves over the winter? How do I keep my leaves from becoming a gloopy, matted mess? Is it better to use shredded leaves or whole leaves? And finally, will leaves attract pests to my garden? My favorite thing to do with leaves in my garden is to use them as mulch. Last season, I was struggling to grow some potatoes that I'd planted late in the season. They were just barely hanging on. The summer sun was hot. They were sad, and so I used leaves on top of the soil to provide protection from the sun, keep the soil cool, and keep it from drying out. And the potatoes, they never really yielded very well, but they survived and they began to thrive up until the first frost killed them. So you can use leaves as mulch in your garden. You can use leaves as mulch for your garden paths. You can use leaves as mulch in perennial beds. Like I've left the leaves on the ground around the borders of my garden because they really are good there. You can use leaves just to cover the exposed soil on your garden beds in the fall. You're going to want to pull them back in the spring so that the sunlight can reach your soil and warm it up a little bit quicker so you can get things going again. Because I know if you're like me, you're excited to grow things in your garden. You can mound these leaves over your potted plants to keep them warm over the winter season. So plants in pots are a little bit more vulnerable to the cold. If you've got some leaves on top of them, they're going to be a lot safer. Leaves are the OG browns in compost. If you have a compost pile or you're thinking about starting a compost pile, you don't want to throw these away because these are your browns. Maybe not this one. This could be a green. So a brown in compost is anything that is high in carbon but low in nitrogen. And you need browns to balance out your compost pile because if it's all high nitrogen stuff, it's going to get stanky. So leaves like this one will keep your compost smelling fresh and cooking hot. Use them in your compost pile. If you have clay soil like mine, you can shred leaves. I would use my leaf sucker, or I also have a mulcher. Shredded leaves mixed directly into your clay soil and left to age just for a season, because these break down fast, are going to add structure and improve the drainage of your clay soil. So they're really great for that. You can make leaf mold, and leaf mold is just this black, fluffy stuff that leaves will naturally turn into if you keep them in a warm, moist environment long enough. That dark color is from humus from the leaves. Humus is composed, the active ingredient in humic acid is porphyrin rings. Porphyrin rings have this wonderful habit of holding on to metals and nutrients and making them available to your plants longer. So leaf mold is great. You can use leaf mold as an even better mulch than shredded leaves. You can use leaf mold as a component of potting mix. You can use leaf mold to fill your raised beds. You want leaf mold, and to get leaf mold, you need leaves. First question, can you use black walnut leaves in your garden? So everyone knows that black walnuts they have a class of chemical in them that is known as allelopathic, which means it slows the growth of other plants nearby. If your plants nearby aren't growing, that's good news for your walnut tree, of course, because there's less competition for nutrients. But in a garden setting, we are concerned because we want things to grow so that we can kill them and eat them. In fallen leaves, even from a black walnut, I haven't got any here, but if I did, I would still use them in my garden. I would still use them in my compost. And that is because the jugalone, which is the allelopathic compound in black walnut specifically, actually degrades relatively quickly in the soil and in the compost pile, and is only present in very low quantities in fallen leaves. So your black walnut leaves are not only relatively safe as is, but they're going to become safer over time. Go nuts. Add them to your compost. Use them as a mulch. You can even work them down into your soil. Most of that dead zone around your black walnut tree is actually caused by root exudate. So trees have a network of roots that go out along the surface, and the job of those roots is to find those nummy nutrients and carry them back to the tree. And while they're out there looking for nutrients and picking up water that's falling and whatever, they can also excrete their, well, for black walnuts, it's jugalone, and they consistently excrete that and make the soil toxic to other plants. So as long as you're not using roots as mulch or in your compost, your black walnut stuff is fine. This is the time of year where all of the social media everywhere gets full of people saying you should leave your leaves on the ground and not rake them up. Leave them on the ground over the winter because they provide habitat for so many important critters. And that's right. The question that comes up is, will leaving leaves on my lawn cause my lawn to die? And the answer is maybe. It depends on where you live. If you live in a place with good precipitation or highly bioactive soil, you can actually get away with leaving leaves on top of your lawn to just rot in place, and they will feed your lawn, they'll improve your soil, they'll provide homes for all sorts of really awesome things, and your lawn will be fine. But in my part of the world, especially with larger leaves, it doesn't work. We have poor precipitation. We have poor bioactivity in our soil. And this combination of factors, plus the fact that we bury everything under a thick layer of snow, so we get like snow mold under the snow over the season, means that if you love your lawn, you should probably not leave leaves on top of it in Utah. I don't love my lawn, so I could leave my leaves on top of it. The reason I rake them up into a pile is that they're so useful for other stuff. I'm going to put them in bags and use them later. I don't want these to rot until I'm good and ready for them to rot. So if you're in a place with great precipitation and active soil, leave them on the ground. If you're not, if you're in Utah, for instance, or probably California, you can provide that habitat, but don't leave them on any lawn you care about. Will pine needles acidify my soil, you may ask? I might ask that too, because I've got a big, beautiful pine tree that's shedding needles all the time. The answer is no. Pine needles don't acidify soil, not even my soil, which is too bad because my soil is basic. Basic soil. I want it acidified. I would love it if pine needles did that, but they do not. That's just a gardening myth. Pine needles, when they fall, are usually pH neutral. Some pine needles may contain allelopathic compounds, which will slow the growth of other plants. If you're using pine straw and you're not sure about it, maybe do a test patch and see if the pine straw you're using is fine. But most of it should be perfectly safe to use as a mulch or a soil additive, just like other leaves. It should be fine. In the places where you're using leaves as mulch, you may wonder, how do I keep them from becoming a goopy, slimy mess? You can shred them. Shredding your leaves reduces their surface area. They become a goopy, slimy mess because these large, flat surfaces tend to, form a mat together, and water gets trapped between them, and it's a one-way ticket to slime town, right? So you can prevent that by taking larger leaves and shredding them before you use them as a mulch. You can mix other material in with your leaves as you use them as a mulch. So maybe you can take some of those pine needles that you were wondering about, mix them in with your leaves so that they can't pack together as well, and then spread that. Or maybe some arborist wood chips would be really great mixed with your leaves and used as a mulch. If you do that, you will prevent goopy, slimy messes in your leaf mulch. Of course, if you're just using leaves in between perennials in a perennial bed, it may not matter. Give it a try, see how it works. Is it better to use whole leaves or shredded leaves? Well, it depends on what you want to do. If your leaves are dry, and they're gonna stay dry, the whole leaves are actually gonna have larger pockets of air between them and going to form a better insulating layer. So I would rather use whole leaves, say in a summer potato bed. The shredded leaves are gonna break down a lot faster and allow better permeation of moisture through that layer. So if I were hand watering or if I were not drip irrigating, I would say, yeah, let's use the shredded leaves. It really depends on what you're using them for. Your condition should dictate what you do to your leaves. In gardening, there are very few best ways to do things. It's just all the ways, and we get to pick and choose. Will leaves attract pests to your garden? Shut up, dog. You're just jealous. Leaves will absolutely attract pests to your garden, and the reason they will do this is that they are cozy. Oh my gosh, it's so warm in here. So they're going to provide habitat for isopods or potato bugs or roly-polies or slaters, whatever you call them in your part of the world. They're going to provide habitat for earwigs. They're going to provide habitat for the natural predators of these things. They're going to provide places for pupae from lepidopterans, moths and butterflies to go through their growth cycle. They provide a habitat for all sorts of stuff. Now, if you have an active ecosystem where you're using the leaves, since they are providing habitat for the predators as well as their prey, it's a wash. You may, as you find your new balance, see an uptick in pests. But once your leaf habitat is established, I bet you will notice that they aren't a problem anymore. So, yeah, you'll attract pests to your garden if you provide habitat for them to live in, but you're also providing habitat for their predators, so it should be okay. I want to know from you, what is your favorite thing to do with this gardening gold? Let me know in the comments how you like to use leaves in your garden. Did I miss anything? Do you have any questions I didn't answer? That's what comments are for, right? Get in there. If you would like more information on how to make leaf mold, I'm going to put a little card for it right up there. There's the card. Thank you for joining me in my garden today, and I hope you have a wonderful time in your own.